Happy Migraine Awareness Month, everybody. I hope you have been enjoying our videos and in particular our chats with various advocates across the migraine world. It's been really great to chat to them both across the socials and in our Instagram lives, if you haven't checked those out. One of the platforms that gets a bit neglected, though, is Twitter. There isn't as big a migraine community on Twitter as there is on Insta or Facebook, but some of us, like, me, prefer Twitter. And I wanted to have a chat to Beth Morton today. She's the host of Migraine Chat. Thanks for joining us, Beth.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Really great to talk to you. I've been following you, obviously, for quite some time now. Tell us a little bit about you and about your migraine.
I've had migraine since I was a teen, but for most of that time, it was episodic, and I didn't really think about it. Didn't really think about even being someone who had migraine. It was pretty well managed. I went to college, grad school, worked, and then about 5 years ago, I was working on my PhD. I was working, and my migraine attacks went from a couple times a week to daily. So it ended up that I finished my PhD and I worked for a little bit, and I just couldn't continue working full time. So I'm still chronic, still have symptoms pretty much every day. I just can't work full time. I'm not able to kind of keep up with, I guess, the full time work requirements. So
it's so tough, particularly when you've done all
kind of
that work to
disappointing
get the
after
PhD.
getting a PhD.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm a bit the same.
So yeah, I have.
What was your PhD in?
I found other ways. So I was getting a PhD. It's kind of a mishmash of things. It was in a college of education, but it was focused on statistics, research methods, assessment, psychometrics, evaluation. Yeah, I think that was it. So basically research stuff, testing and research. So yeah.
Okay. And you haven't found any treatments that work or anything? You're just kind of slugging it up?
Yeah, I really haven't. And I've been fortunate enough to, new things come out, and I most of the time find ways to convince my doctors and my insurance to let me at least try them for a little while. But nothing really seems to put a dent in this chronic pattern. So, I try something and then I wait for science to catch up with the next big thing.
Hopefully soon. All right, let's talk about Migraine Chat.
Yeah.
What prompted you to start Migraine Chat?
I think it was partly the fact that I was, 3, 4, 5 years ago, kind of going through this process of trying to find information, trying to find a community. And I went to social media, and like you said, most of the information is on Facebook and Instagram. But it's what I ended up finding was, once I kind of landed on Twitter, I was able to follow researchers and journals, and being trained in research, I could read those things sort of, at least probably better than a lot of other people with migraine who don't have a research training. And I don't say that to be, snobby. It's a special skill to be able to read and understand academic journals. So that there's more of that on Twitter. So I guess I sort of found my community on Twitter, and there's a lot of kind of savvy patients on Twitter. And so I started to notice there were other organizations or other disease groups hosting chat. So there had been the Migraine Chat that was run by someone else a few years ago, and she, I reached out to her, and she didn't really have the bandwidth to continue it. So I took it over, and so now we have the monthly chat, the rotating topic, and there's a good sort of core group that does it every month, and then we sort of have new people that join in depending on the topic, and that's different co-hosts that join, who sometimes are more of an expert in the topic. So it's really it's good. Seems like a good community, and it sort of spawned off some different other sort of side things too. So it's been kind of interesting and fun to keep me busy.
Yeah, there's another hashtag that gets used quite a bit on Twitter for a lot of chronic illnesses, not just migraine, which is NEIS void, which is no end in sight. Yeah.
Yes.
So there's a bit of interaction between those two communities. This is one of the things that I like about Twitter as opposed to Facebook, which is very much, you go into the group and everything kind of happens in the group, and those groups don't necessarily intermingle. On Twitter, everything is kind of like a wall-less chat group. So
Right.
you kind of do have these conversations overlapping. So that's also a good hashtag to check out if you're checking out Twitter for the first time. You do have the chat on Facebook as well. Is that a different community of people, do you find?
It ends up, I did a little bit of sort of research to see, because I started the Facebook group hoping that people who weren't comfortable with the sort of public openness of Twitter would join the Facebook group. It ends up being a lot of the same people. Sometimes they share additional details that they weren't sort of interested in sharing on sort of the open forum of Twitter. There are some different people who've joined. It's small, and I think the migraine chat idea of having sort of the live chat monthly, and then sort of using the hashtag for people to tag tweets or questions about, throughout the month, people can also use the migraine chat hashtag, like, oh my God, I'm having this 3-day long migraine. What can I do? What do I need to ask my doctor for? Or I'm starting topiramate. What can I expect? I mean, these are pretty common ones that pop up a lot. So people can use the hashtag to kind of tag tweets throughout the month. That didn't translate super well to Facebook, because I decided right at the start I didn't want to be just another Facebook migraine support group, because there are lots of other really good ones out there that I didn't kind of want to duplicate. So I kind of set some ground rules, like, if you have a question about a new drug, see this group. Or if you have a question about chronic migraine, see this group. Or if, if you're in Australia, see your group. If you're in the UK, see these are other different support groups that are much larger and doing it much better. So then, doing just sort of the chat questions repeated throughout the month in the Facebook group has honestly kind of not translated well. And I do the same thing on Instagram, and that's only marginally better. So I'm sort of reassessing, like, what's the migraine chat brand? And I'm really finding that Twitter is, it's like you said, Twitter is sort of gets the least attention. But it's the best fit for the chat.
Yeah. I think the difference is that Instagram is all kind of positivity and hope and light, and it's about kind of empowerment and loving yourself and all of that kind of mushy stuff that I'm not particularly good at, but the Insta girls are teaching me. Facebook is kind of, a lot of really practical type questions, like, I'm about to try this drug, what do I do, kind of support. What Twitter is it's usually thought leaders. So it's a lot, like, you can tweet directly with Peter Goadsby, right? He's right there, just send him a tweet. So, and same with Elspeth Hutton, with, which is a leading neuro here. She's on Twitter. There's a whole pile of, really amazing US neuros that are there. You can, tweet with Robert Shapiro, you can, tweet with Amal. Like, there's no walls, but the conversation is at a different level. And it is a lot of people like you and me who are reading the science, and we're engaging with the scientists, the researchers, the neuros. So if you're interested in kind of pushing your migraine knowledge, Twitter is a really good space. So it is a very different conversation. And I think with the migraine chat questions, you're really kind of talking to that audience, right? So it's a lot of, like, you did a whole series once on, do you read academic research, which I thought was really interesting. Some of these questions are, accessible by everyone. It's about symptoms or management or whatever. but a lot of them are kind of, you know, along the lines of, do you understand your condition? Which I think is really important as part of our theme for Migraine Awareness Month, which is Your Migraine, Your Way. And that's about empowering people to understand their own condition so they can take control of their migraine journey. So I think understanding the Twitter space is really important for that purpose. And that's why I'm really grateful that Migraine Chat exists and that you have the spoons, as it were, if you like spoon theory, to do it.
I think that's a really great point and something I hadn't thought about. And I think one of my motivations and one of my, if I had to pick sort of one advocacy goal that I have, and maybe it's something I need to work more into Migraine Chat, is and something I try to do sort of outside of Migraine Chat, just on my Twitter feed in general, is if I see something interesting in some research article, I try to kind of share it, retweet it, and I'll try to kind of pull out what the nugget of interesting finding is from the discussion, skipping for technical stuff, boil down, this is the takeaway kind of thing. And I'd like to, that's hard to do in 280 characters, but it's something I'd like to get better about doing and doing more, because I do think finding ways to share information right from the source, these people that we have access to on Twitter that we don't on other social media platforms, to people who are interested, is a really important distinction that you made. So I think that's a really great point.
Have you got anything special planned for Migraine Chat during Migraine Awareness Month?
So for June, I am going to team up with Chronic Migraine Awareness. We're just going to talk sort of, so in the US, the theme I think is New Era of Care. So we're just going to talk about sort of general kind of living with migraine and chronic migraine, and experiences with a new era of care. People who have access to, have you accessed it? If you haven't, and I know that's different around the world, and very well. So for
it's one of the reasons why we didn't use the same theme, right? Because we haven't got that new era of care
you
yet.
are not that era, right? So if there's anyone from Australia, from the UK, from other parts of the world who want to join Migraine Chat, I very much want to hear your experiences, because the new era of care has not been equally accessible. So
you're in Scotland, Israel, or the US. You're on a different planet to us right now. Right. It's kind of
So we'll be chatting about that. And if you want to sort of make some noise about how the era has not quite reached every corner of the globe, please participate. We'll be June 7th, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for sort of the New York, Boston time zone. So
June 8th our time.
June 8th, that's right. It'll be June 8th for you guys.
Yeah. Now it usually happens in the middle of the night, our time.
That's true.
So what I generally do is I just reply anyway when I wake up in the morning. It's totally okay to do that. It doesn't matter that you're not kind of in the live, if it will. If you're in WA and you're a bit of a night owl, then just stay up a couple of hours, you'll be fine.
Perfect.
So thank you so much, Beth. It's been really great to talk to you, and happy Migraine Awareness Month.
Yes, thank you.